The Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 4th chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus' temptation in the wilderness is recorded in all of the first 3 Gospels. This is Matthew's account. Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was famished. The tempter said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to a holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down. For it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you do not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor, and said to him, "All these things I will give you, if you fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." The devil left him, and suddenly the angels came and waited on him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please be seated. Prayer. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. You can spell wilderness in a lot of ways. Sickness, from cancer to cardiac arrest to the coronavirus, people are scared to death of death. And no matter how many medical advancements we've made in the last 35 years, the cemeteries are still filling up. Despair. A lot of people out there think their best days are behind them. They've got a whole lot of different reasons why that they are filled with an absolute emptiness of hope. Did you know that suicide is one of the 10 leading killers in the United States? And a lot of those people who are despairing don't live too far from where we do. Ostracism. The world is filled with people who have been shoved aside, pushed away, discarded, who feel unappreciated and unwelcomed and have no one to care for them. I was at Spirit in the Desert last week for a symposium led by the Bishop of the New England Synod, who said that the biggest epidemic in today's world, you want to guess what it is? Loneliness. Affluence. Tomorrow on I-75, it's going to be filled with people who are rushing to fulfill the American dream in the hopes that more money and more fame and more power will fill the gap in their lives. And I suspect that for many of them and many of us, we're beginning to realize that no matter how much we have, it's never quite enough. And there is a fine line between a dream and a nightmare. A lot of different ways to spell wilderness. Just ask Jesus. He was in one for 40 days. And the word hungry in the Revised Standard Version just doesn't quite cut it. The new NRSV is better. He was famished. He was starved. He was vulnerable and weak. That's just what it is in the wilderness. Attacks us when we are most vulnerable. Do you hear what Matthew says? Jesus, I know you're hungry. Turn these stones to bread. I wonder if the tempter came to Jesus looking like a starving child. Hey, Jesus! Jump! The angels will catch you. Don't you trust God? Jesus, look. John, look out there. All of those things I will give you. Just fall down and worship me. I didn't know all of those things were the tempter's things to give. Ladies and gentlemen, for Jesus and for us, the journey of Lent begins in the wilderness. It's a frightening place. It's a place where we are tempted and tested and attacked. Most of us like Jesus when we are at our weakest. Who among us doesn't want to lead our own lives and be the Lord of our lives and set our own rules? Who among us isn't a whole lot better at our own taking care of our own self-interest than somebody else's? Who, when it comes right down to it, we'd rather look in a mirror than a window. You can spell wilderness in a lot of different ways. And whether or not your wilderness, ladies and gentlemen, is sickness or despair, ostracism or apathy, I want you to hear this. You're not alone. The God who created everything that there ever will be and ever was is right there with you every step of the way. Jesus walked into his wilderness so he could be with us in ours. If you or anybody that you love is struggling with sickness, don't be afraid. Because Jesus has come to heal any sickness, whether it's on this side of the grave or the next. Those of you who are struggling with despair, don't be afraid. Because Jesus has come to give you a meaning and a purpose in your life that you never dreamed possible. Those of us who are struggling because we don't feel welcomed and don't feel embraced and feel excluded, don't be afraid. Jesus welcomes you with open arms into his kingdom, no matter who you are, and in this place, so do we. Those of you who struggle with worshiping false gods, with the whole thing about affluence, don't be afraid. Jesus can change and transform your life the way he has been doing for 2,000 years. A lot of different ways to spell and pronounce wilderness. One way you don't spell it is with the word hopeless. Because Jesus entered his wilderness, there is no such thing as hopeless. Because in some sense, ladies and gentlemen, Jesus is still there. Because in some sense, so are we.